All right. Well, good morning, everyone. It's morning here in Australia. Welcome back. It's Friday, and Friday, this is basically the day we do some Xamarin UI challenges. So welcome. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully everyone's having a good time, especially the people over at the Xamarin Developer Summit. They look like they're having a fantastic time. So myself and a few other people were definitely up watching that last night, which is really cool. I see Lachlan on the chat. Hi, Lachlan. So I can see that, you were up late last night as well. So welcome. All right. And yes, good morning. So stream diary. Yeah. So I'm just sort of going to document here what we're going to cover off in today's session. So let's actually get straight into that. Hey, and let's have a look and see what we're going to tackle today. So as always, we're going to take a design and we're going to go and try and turn that, or try and implement that in Xamarin.Forms and create a rough approximation of it. So this one today is something called Mountain Mobile. So let's have a look at what we have here. So this is the design. The design is by Henry Prince. Let me throw that out into the chat window in case anyone wants to have a look at it. So this is kind of an interesting design. Let's sort of zoom in on this a little bit here. Let's come to this page here. So what I like about this design is it's super clean. I like that. I like the animations, of course. So that's the hero of this particular piece. So this is what we're going to try and do. And really what we want to do is break apart this design, see all the various elements of it, and then see what we can implement. So I'm pretty much thinking for this one, we're going to end up with some SkiaSharp animations. And so that's something that interests me, doing SkiaSharp, because I haven't done a lot of it in the past, particularly the animation side of things. So we're going to deal with some custom animations as we go through, but we'll break that down in just a moment. Let's have a look at the actual screens themselves. So I think here are the actual screens. So what's interesting about this is these are all places in Iceland. Thorsmork. I'm not going to try and pronounce these other ones, but interesting fact, I've actually been to Iceland. I walked across Iceland once. And what's interesting about this design is these are actually not pictures of Iceland, but it doesn't matter. They're good looking pictures. And so that's what we're gonna deal with. So let's have a look at this. Let's have a look at this layout first of all, or these animations that we have, because that's kind of what we want to check out. So I'm going to copy this image address, and I'm going to just turn it into a movie file so we can step through it sort of frame by frame and see what we have. So let's go GIF to movie. So there's this little site here. Easy GIF, and I can sort of throw in a URL here and turn this into a MP4. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to save that video out. So throw it in a folder here, and then let's go ahead and open this and walk through it. All right, here's our design, because I think you'll find that this is, hey Asfaroth, welcome. And we're just having a look at this UI design. So I've basically got it and put it into a movie so we can see how it actually works. Okay, and see if we can reproduce this puppy. All right, let's sort of step through this and see what we have. So the actual layout itself for the page is pretty straightforward, right? So we've got an image, we've got a couple of bits of text, we've got a couple of icons up the top. So probably a grid here is going to work well. So for example, we'd probably do something like have a grid, have a couple of rows on that. And then maybe in here, just to keep this, we might either use a stack layout, or we could, again, use a grid inside of here with a line across there. So something like that. And then we'll just overlay these elements on top of there. Okay, so nice and simple in terms of the page layout. Asaroth, thanks for the last video. Actually, I was the one who asked for help in that design. Oh, fantastic. I hope you found it useful. Right, let's step this through then. Okay, so let's go from top to bottom. So these elements here are just overlaid. They're nothing going on there, but let's have a look at this animation in the top section. So a couple of things happening here, right? So first of all, what we have is we've got this this clipping triangle, if you like, that's coming out here, and that goes across the page. And then when it gets to the end, it actually goes up the page. So it sort of goes, you know, across and then up here. Okay, so it's basically clipping the next picture in that section. And we know from previous streams, we can, you know, if we use something like SkiaSharp, we can clip paths in there. I don't think there's anything in sort of standard Xamarin.Forms that would allow you to do this. So I think we're going to be in SkiaSharp land. So it goes sort of, so it's not just a triangle, it sort of comes out and then it sweeps out. And the other interesting thing as well is this image that's coming in is actually moving in at the same time. Okay, so you can see it sort of pans across into the scene. So that's pretty cool. Okay, let's see the next transition. There's also something else that's happening here as well, and that is the image that's currently there is actually starting to slide off the page as well. Right, so you can see that. And another interesting thing is there's a bit of opacity going on down here. Let's see if we can see that with this next one. Actually, that's another interesting thing as well. See this image that's here at the moment, that sort of zooms in. That's sort of interesting there as well. Okay, now let's have a look at this transition here as it happens. So what you'll notice is down in this section here, it's basically doing the opacity of the image that's coming in. Might be easy to see back here. Okay, so before this image is actually outside of that clipping rectangle, these little artifacts that you can see here, like this sort of line that goes down here, is actually part of this image. So it's not only displaying the image, it's sort of clipping it to be the full alpha here, or the full image. And in this bit, it's actually sort of shadowed essentially. So you can see that it's sort of coming in there, and you can see that. So there's actually quite a bit happening in that animation. Now let's have a look at the bottom section here as well, as it basically navigates between the text. So what happens is the text for the particular location is here. When it transitions, oh dear. Let's have a look. Are we back? I think we've got some questionable frame rates going on here. Okay, I think we're back. All right. So what we're having a look at is this text down the bottom. So as we transition, what's happening here is this is flying off a little bit before this text here. And the incoming text is actually visible at the same time. So it fades in. Okay. So what's interesting is you've kind of got two pages visible at once. So we're not going to use something like a view pager for this. We're going to have to, I think, have basically two bits of text for each of these. So one that is one that's leaving the screen and one that's coming into the screen. Hey, but it's a really, really nice effect. All right, so cutting in and out a little, but never fully lost me, Lachlan. You'll never lose me, Lachlan. Fantastic. All right, so that's what we're going to try and do. So first of all, I suppose what we'll do is we'll go and we'll get some of these elements using our favorite tool, or my favorite tool, Adobe XD. and we'll create some of those. And we'll start with the simple page layout, and then we'll start working towards getting those animations done. And one of the things I want to play around with is child animations. So with animations, you can not only do animations the way that we normally do them in the stream, which is where we just do a fade to or something like that, and a translate to and things like that. But what we can also do is actually create sort of custom animations. All right, so let's get out of this movie here. Just put it over here because we might need that a little bit later on. I've created a project that I'm going to sort of check this into. So this is over on GitHub. I've called this Mountain Mobile. Throw that over there. And let's have a look at the pages. So these are the pages. So let's grab this image and let's take it into Adobe XD and create some of our elements. Okay, so here we are in good old Adobe XD. Create myself a rectangle. Size of the page. Just like so. And then I'm going to paste that into here. All right, and then we'll scale this out. So we'll just get one of these because they're all pretty much the same. That down a little. I don't know what device. Somebody mentioned on Twitter, what's this amazing device that this person has that doesn't have any bezels? I think it's just the designer just invented a device, but it's a pretty sweet looking device. Okay, so let's create a few of these elements up here. So this is always a little bit of fun using, I don't know, something like the path tool here. So start off there. We'll go and create this, probably just like this. Of course, it's easier if you're actually working with the designer because they actually just give you the elements. All right, but that's a pretty good approximation. Let's get rid of the border. Let's add a fill. All right, so there's our mountain design. Beautiful. All right, and what we'll do is we will come to our layers here, and Lachlan thinks it's an iPad mini with gaffer tape over the screen. It could be. Let's rename this. Let's call this mountain icon. Okay, and we've got a hamburger menu over here as well. Of course, the hamburger menu is on the wrong side of the screen for what people normally do. So anyway, that's the designer's prerogative, I suppose. Let's just create a line here. It's not quite on the pixel boundaries, doesn't really matter. Make it white, make it say too high. There we are, that'll do us. Duplicate that down. And we'll do it again. And Adobe XD is really nice because it'll tell you when your spacing's the same, which is awesome. All right, cool. So let's get these three elements here. Let's group them together. And let's rename those, and we'll call that hamburger. All right, so that gives us our, probably the only graphical elements we need, actually. Okay, the rest of it is going to be the image itself. I actually, before the stream, I actually went and grabbed, what I did is I basically took screen captures of each of these photos and did a Google image search on them. And what I found, oh yeah, I've got a few images here as well. Okay, so so these are the actual images that we'll display inside of here. Okay, cool. Now what we'll do is we will export these elements first of all. So let's make sure we're not running. Grab these elements here. Let's collapse that one down. Okay, and we'll say, let's get those two elements. Let's export them. And we want to do it for iOS. And no, can't remember where my directories are. Right, and we'll throw this inside the iOS application under the resources directory. And then we'll export them as well for Android. Where's my menu? And we'll set it for Android. And the cool thing here, of course, is that Adobe XD is going to go and create all the different sizes for us. So that'll be under our resources directory. Export those. Beautiful. All right, so that's our basic elements there. Now let's have a look at some fonts here. We may as well do that while we're here. Actually, let's look this up on Wikipedia. So I can get that funky font. So I have no idea how to type that on my keyboard. So one thing I would say, if you ever want to go somewhere, you're looking for a holiday, Iceland is actually an amazing place to go. All right, so here's our font. Looks like it's black. It's kind of unusual in the design, actually. All right, so we've got our font here. So let's have a look at Google Fonts. Let's see if we can find something that's nice. Right. The URL is for Google Fonts. Fonts.google.com, of course. All right, so let's have a look at something that matches this. So we want, it's a serif font. So we'll get rid of all of these. Blow it up a little bit. So what are we looking for? We're looking for something that's not bad. Don't mind that. Some really nice fonts in here these days, huh? Probably any of these will do. Let's get. What do you think? Let's do that one. Okay. This other font looks like pretty much standard. I don't know. Pretty much standard. Something like Open Sans, I'd say. Go and install that font. Let's get the regular font. Okay, and let's see how it looks. It's called Frank Rule. Nailed it. That's pretty close, hey? That's pretty close. Okay, so we'll use that font. For the bottom font, let's go and have a look at something like... Let me copy some text from that web page. In fact, the text that's in here is actually in the Wikipedia page, funnily enough. Grab that text. Oh, let's do this. And we'll make this like Open Sans, something nice and simple. Doesn't matter, we don't have to get it exact. We really want to spend more time focusing on the animations, I think. Probably something like that, I reckon. That's close enough. So there we are. We've got some fonts. So we'll get Open Sans and we'll get Frank Rule Library. Beautiful. So let's go and throw a few of these in and let's get this basic page mocked up. So back here, we've got our resources that we imported. Didn't we? Did we? Did we not? There we go. So let's bring these in. Feed those in the project. We should have some resources under iOS as well. I find this a little bit weird. Why not export them to the right place? I did. Just Visual Studio carrying on. Let's bring those into our project. Okay, and let's grab some of those fonts as well. So what do we want? We want grab that font, throw it in our resources for iOS. Throw it in our assets for Android. Beautiful. And we'll grab a little bit of Open Sans. So I already have Open Sans in here somewhere. Just got to find it. Hang on a second. And I think we're probably after maybe light. It's a pretty light font. No, maybe we'll start with regular. We'll see how we go. And regular up. Yeah, beautiful. So we've got our fonts and we've got our image assets inside of here. Now, just as the stream was starting, I also added in a good old live XAML. Interestingly enough, at the XAML Dev Summit, which I was watching last night, they announced the live XAML, or their XAML Reloader, I think it's called XAML Reload. So that's really cool. All right, so let's maybe spin this up, and we'll style this out a little bit. There we go. Let's give that a build. Give it a build on. Let's do it in iOS. Those fonts up a little bit so people can see. Okay, here's our super unexciting page. Let me just go ahead and put this over here. so we can see it run. Beautiful. Okay, let's start with this. Always be using grids, right? Give it a save, check that it's updating. Yep, it is. Thanks, XAML styler, for getting rid of my end tag. And what do we got? We want to have a couple of rows, right? So we'll say grid.row definitions. We'll have a first row, which is going to be the height of the screen. Let's get a second row, and maybe we'll just make that auto height, perhaps. Something like that. And then let's just throw a box view on the front, on the top for the moment. All right, so we've got that. Let's get rid of our row spacing. Set that to 0. And then let's put a box view perhaps down the bottom, which is white, in grid row 1. Okay. And of course, what we want inside of here is we want to put ourselves a heading. So we'll call this, I don't know, let's just call it heading 1, because remember, we're going to have 2 headings. We're going to have the one that's there, the one that slides on as well. We'll set some text. Just for giggles, let's see if we can find the... Hey, President Not Sure at the XAML Dev Summit. Lucky you. Welcome. Yeah, very jelly. Very jelly for sure. Okay, in fact, what we might want to do here, I think, is we might want to put that in a grid. So let's do this. Let's have a grid in grid row 1, and we'll have 2 rows. Again, we'll have one for the heading, one for the actual text itself. It's about 1,000 degrees outside. Well, hopefully it's cool inside. President Not Sure. All right. So for this one here, let's make it. Let's give it a specific height. Did I hear about the XAML hot reload announcement? I did. I was watching last night. That was awesome. And I've already signed up. I don't know. Let's give this a fixed height, maybe. So, too hot inside, too hot outside, too cold inside. Just have to stand in the doorway, maybe. Let's move this into this grid. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to trying it myself. Absolutely. Hot reload, definitely what we need. That's kind of looking all right. Let's create another label. And we'll make this our body. 14 point or something like that. What was it, 12, 14, something? And I'll copy that text that they're using in the design. All right, that's not what we're after, is it? Better. Let's throw maybe a bit of a margin around this as well. See what happens there. That might be a bit over the top. We'll fine tune that as we go. Let's give that away. Okay, so we've got our bottom section there. Let's put our images up the top. So because we've already got those loaded in. So we had one which was our mountain icon, I think it was called. So we want that to be up the top left corner. So we'll set its vertical options to start. We'll set its horizontal options to start. Give it a margin of 30 or so. There we are. There's our icon. And we'll throw the hamburger menu on the other side. So this will be the end. There we go. All right, so we've got our basic elements there. Of course, what we want to do is we want to add a bit of swiping into this whole thing. Actually, we want to put the fonts in. So probably time to grow and create some styles in here as well. All right, so let's have a look at. First of all, I'm probably gonna have to stop it. So what we're going to do is we want to say actually, let me copy some code for this. So I can never remember how to set these up, but in some of my other streams, we've done this before. So let's have a look. All I want to do is just steal some of this stuff. Regular font. Yep, that looks about right. We'll grab one of those. And we'll set the styles up as we go through. Oops. Okay, so let's set our, let's call this body font. And we're going to have Open Sans. We're not doing UWP. Now, actually, what I do need to do is I need to also add it into the info P list, right? And again, that's something I can never remember either. So let's find that. There we are. Something like that. We need this UI app fonts. I'll go and put that into my info P list. But we actually want here, we have Open Sans regular, and the other one that we have is this one here. Okay, cool. So now we should be able to create a style using those as well. Let's try that. So here's our body font, Open Sans regular, that's all good. Let's go and add ourselves a font in here as well. Do you use set the plist fonts using the Visual Studio editor? So in through this bad boy here. So I can never find the right place. In fact, I think in Visual Studio. On a PC, we don't have that. Did I just see... Hey, Clinton Rocksmith. Welcome. And thanks for the 100 bits. Good morning. Super awesome. All right. So, Clinton, in case you... I don't know when you joined, Clinton. What we're doing is basically trying to create this one. Hi, friends. Hi, Clinton. Creating this UI here. some nice little transitions. Visual assets, add a key from the drop down. Is that where it is? Yeah, I'm not sure where it is. I always just go straight to the XML. Okay, so now we're going to play the guessing game of trying to work out what all the font names are. So for Android, it's really easy, right? You just sort of say, here's the name of the font. And then we basically go and have a good old guess at what we think it is. So probably, in fact, let's open up the font. Frank Libre Regular. Oh, sorry, Frank Rule. Libre, let's try that. Is there a key for fonts? Right. Regular. Let's try that. Now for this one. Actually, here's an interesting thing to do. This is probably the best way I know to find out the fonts. Gerald had a blog post some time ago where he spat out a bit of code, which all it does here is it just goes and dumps out all the font name. Okay, so just basically iterates through all the fonts that are installed, and then you can go and you can find out the names from there. So I'm going to do that, I think, because I have no idea what they're going to call this font. So into my iOS, into my app delegate, I'm just going to throw that in here somewhere. This system.string. And no, is it system.text? Anyone? System.string.text. Here's my IntelliSense. Okay, that looks all right. Cool. So I'm going to put a breakpoint down here. And then this is a good old build. Yeah, system.text. That's right, President Not Sure. Absolutely. I'm going to spin this up in iOS, and it should, all things going well, dump out the font names for me. If it runs, that is. All right, cool. So now I've got this old big list of fonts and families. So now I just go and find my friend Frank. There we are. And that is what it's called. So I can now come back to my app XAML. And there, and that's probably called the same thing as well. Sweet. All right, so I think we're going to have fonts there. So now we should probably be able to spin this up and see if we can style the text. I'll get rid of that breakpoint. Okay, so let's throw together a style here. It's header. Actually, it's X style key, isn't it, for a style? Target type is a label. And then we'll have a setter for the font family. And the value is going to be, we're not going to change it, so it's a static resource, and we'll say header font inside of there. Beautiful. Okay, what else we got? We'll put the font size in here. Font size looks about okay, and I think it was 30, so let's go with that. What else do we want in here? Maybe our text color, and we'll put our margin in here as well. So we'll say text color is black. And we'll throw our margin in here, which I think we had pretty much 20 around the board. Okay, so now we've got this header font. Let's see how it looks. So we'll get rid of those two bits there. Let's apply the style. And then we'll know, hey, look, looks like it's taken the font. Beautiful. Let's create another style for our body. Our body font, I don't know, let's put it about 12 point, 14 point. Let's have a look. 14 point. It's not quite black. That is a handsome font, isn't it? Grab that number there for our font for our text color. Stick our margin. So I think we had 20, 0, 20, 20. There we are. Beautiful. Okay, let's have a quick look back at our design here. Okay, we want a bit of extra spacing in here. One of the nice things that we have is we've actually got line spacing now, don't we? Which is cool, which means I can say, hey, let's go and, what's it called? Line spacing? Line height. And this is the line height compared to normal. Like 1 is normal. Then you can say like 1.3, for example. Just sort of space those lines out. I have no idea. I have no idea who Frank Rule is or was. I'm guessing a designer. All right, so that's looking okay. I'm wondering if we want to. Feels like there's a bit too much gap up here, doesn't there? So maybe we'll pull those down a little bit, maybe. Probably a safe guess. So let's go 30. Which I think it needs to come in a little bit more. Let's do this. 35, 35, 35, 0. Oh, that didn't work, did it? Oh, that's not going to work for the font size, is it? I was after the margin. Make this bad boy 35. Wowzers, that's not what we're after. 0 at the top, 35 and 35. Let's try that. Okay. Yeah, it's probably about right. We'll go with that, hey? So the font, you were going to ask about the font size syntax. Well, that's what happens with the font size when you type it in wrong. Yeah, I think we'll go with 30. Let's have a look. 40. Let's try 40. Too big? It's probably all right. Let's go with that. All right, let's get on to the fun stuff, shall we? I should probably see how it looks on Android, actually. Just to make sure that we've got our fonts and things set up in Android. You think I could go even bigger with the font? Lose our fonts there. I think just because it's not running. All right, so my Android's spinning up. Let me get Visor launched. So I can show you onto my device, because I always deploy to physical devices. Deploying. All right. Yeah, it's looking all right. Beautiful. All right, let's throw an image in just to see how this works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use SkiaSharp for this. So a good reference. SkiaSharp, Xamarin.Forms. Okay. Really great documentation. Just want to have bitmaps. Let's have a look at bitmaps. Okay, so we can either get it from a stream, from a URL. We can get it from an embedded resource. Let's do an embedded resource for this one, because I don't have a URL to hit. So we basically go and get the resource, load it up. In fact, there's actually a library which, or some code that comes inside of the Xamarin.Forms SkiaSharp samples, which is actually probably really useful for us here. It's called bitmap extensions. I was having a look at this a moment ago. So this has some methods for loading bitmap resources and basically drawing out bitmaps as well. So it basically simulates what Xamarin.Forms does. So you can sort of say, hey, I want something to be scaled, you know, aspect fill, aspect fit, things like that. So you don't have to do the calculations yourself, just steal this class. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. class called bitmap extensions. Splat that in there. All right, so we need some Skia stuff. Install package SkiaSharp. I'm not sure if that's the right one. I think we need SkiaSharp.Forms. So let's go and you get that in. Actually, I want to do this on all projects, don't I? So I'll do this at the solution level. That'll do, Donkey. What's that? I got one of those monkeys and a banana in our swag bag. That's awesome. Those monkeys are hot property. I was saying on the chat last night, we need to make sure that we convince like the Xamarin.Forms team or David ought now to run another challenge so that we can have an opportunity to win more monkeys. So let's throw SkiaSharp.Forms in here. And let's clean up our references. Should now be able to use SkiaSharp. Yep. This will be from Reflection. Yep. Stream will be from IO. Beautiful. So now what we have is we've got a whole bunch of probably methods we may not use, but we do have this nice draw bitmap method. Okay, and what we can also do is we can now come into our main page and we can, instead of using this box view, we can use a Skia canvas. Actually, we need to include the Skia namespace. So let's go back to our document here. Let's steal that from the sample code, the little namespace. There it is. All right, let's just see what happens. XML and S, and we'll call this like Skia inside of here, and then hey Clinton, enjoy your meeting. Pride cheer, awesome. Have fun at your meeting. Hang on, let me. Lachlan, you're a champion. There we are. Lachlan just posted what it is in the chat. I haven't got time to remember that. Let's see if Lachlan's right. I'm sure he is. So we should be able to say Skia. If I could, I probably would have got there. I would have got IntelliSense if I'd actually done it right. How about that? Okay, I want a canvas view inside of here. We'll give it a name. That's our image. Let's set its vertical options to fill, horizontal options to fill. So we're going to fill that first. You just free typed it. Hey, Why Bad Dragon. Welcome. If you're wondering what we're doing, doing this bad boy. Yeah, this is a better one. So we're gonna go and reproduce this with some animations. Yeah, why Bad Dragon? I was on the chat from the live summit. So and so was Lachlan. We were up late last night until about, I don't know, 1:30 or so, watching all the great announcements. So that was super fun. Are you there? Why Bad Dragon? Are you at the summit? No, I wish. Well, on the chat, President not sure. He's at the summit. So lucky him. Okay, so Skia canvas, we wanna paint, right? Paint surface. Yeah. It was the morning. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, cool. So we're going to paint surface here. So because this is, go back across here, because this is SkiaSharp, let's go and have a look at, there's always a standard bit of code that you sort of throw in the top here into your paint method. And let's go and throw that in there. Let's go and add some musings in. Yeah, why Bad Dragon? I also signed up immediately. Absolutely. All right, so let's do this. Let's go and create ourselves a bitmap here. Hey, Codephobia. Thank you for the hosting with 14 viewers. Raid. Hi, how you doing? Good to see you. Have you just finished the stream, Codephobia? Yeah, what were you working on? Fun things? Angular. Ah, cool. You know what, like, you web people are a mystery to me. I have no idea. I'm doing mobile. So in case you're wondering what we're working on, we're doing a bit of Xamarin, right? We're doing some Xamarin.Forms because I can't keep up with all the web frameworks. But I do need to learn some. So I'm going to have to tune into your stream, learn a bit about Angular. So we're basically creating a, this is a design that's on Dribble, and we're going to go and reproduce this in Xamarin.Forms using SkiaSharp and some animations in there. That's what we're doing today. But welcome, and thanks again for the raid. At the moment, we're just doing a little bit of setup. So let's go and create ourselves a bitmap here, and just a field here that we're going to just hold our bitmap in. And let's just go ahead and basically just use that method. So we'll say from those extensions that we brought in. So we'll say our current bitmap. So there was the bitmap extensions, and then there is a load bitmap resource. So I need to throw some resources in. So let me go and dump those in. So we're going to add a folder under here named images. I should put what we're doing today in your stream description with a link to the things. You're absolutely right. Why Bad Dragon? I need to spend a bit more time doing things like writing some bots and all that sort of stuff, and actually sort of tidying up the stream. So yeah, I will. In fact, there we go. Let's go with that. Just so I remember to do it. All right, let's go and find some images to throw in. So I already downloaded some images. So let's grab those. Put those in here. So these want to be embedded resources. So I'll change that build action. Now, of course, probably in a real solution, you'd be pulling these from a website or something like that, or through an API. Probably done that all at the same time, couldn't I? In fact, let's see if it works. Cool. President Not Sure got to meet Frank Kruger and David Ortonau. They are super nice. They are such nice people. Yeah, it's fantastic. Okay, so we're gonna load some. We're gonna load a resource. So what is it? Load a bitmap resource. So it needs a type. Okay, so basically what assembly it's going to get it from. So this assembly, and then it's after a. Where's my IntelliSense? A resource ID. So the resource ID is going to be basically, in our case, like mountain mobile dot images dot, and let's put this one in for the moment. Cool. So that should load up our So GamerWiz thought you need to put the images in the Android assets or the iOS resources. Okay, so this is kind of an interesting thing, where we go and get them from. So if you're, obviously we've got the challenge with mobile of having images in various device densities. So really your best option, I mean, normally you're going to pull it from a website, right? But if you've got things that you're deploying with your applications, normally what you'd do is you would have them in the platform projects. So you put them under, say, resources under your different device densities. So pretty much like I've done with the hamburger menu and the mountain icon, right? Just happens I don't have all of those resources or these images in different resolutions. And of course in iOS you'd put them under the resource folders, but of course you can get them from a stream somewhere. So technically I could go and throw them up onto a website and then pull them back down, but I'm lazy. Or you can go and get them from embedded resources. So if they're embedded, you can just basically put them inside of this assembly as an embedded resource, and then you can go and access them. And in fact, I think if we go and have a look at the docs are pretty good on this one. Xamarin.Forms images. So you can get them from a file, from a URI, from a resource, and a stream as well. So it basically has that. So, but really, if you've just got sort of normal, like definitely the UI assets that you're going to use, like for example, these images up here, you definitely want to put them in your platform projects so that they're, you have all the different sizes. Okay, the disadvantage with putting them as embedded resources is that they're basically just one size. Now, in our case, we're going to be scaling these ourselves anyway, so it's probably not a big deal. But yeah, it's interesting, interesting sort of discussion. All right, so next thing we want to do is we want to actually go on and render out this bitmap. So that's
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim, Phil Potts, and oh, how amazing you'll be.
I hope I didn't blow anyone's ears out then. Hey, thanks for the follow, Beep13. Welcome. Sorry about that. That's my jingle that Glenn Stevens wrote, and I had my system volume up a little bit too loud. But it woke me up, you know. I gotta say that.
Lots with Mr. Kim, Phil
And Xamarin.
Oh, how amazing you'll be.
And hi, Clean Swift. Hi again. All right, so let's have a look here. That's a loud jingle. Yeah, sorry about that. I turned the volume down, so hopefully any further jingles won't be so painful. All right, so what we can do is we can say draw bitmap. Okay, and we're going to knock you off your chair. Yes, sorry. Workers' comp. Or turn it up or crank it up. Exactly. Okay, so we've got our bitmap. What else have we got? Okay, so what we're going to do here is we want to make sure that our aspect is correct, right? Because all of these images that we have here are different aspect ratios, which is kind of part of the design anyway, right? Because the design, as it sort of moves through, you'll notice that this next one that comes in will scale down, right? So the different aspect ratios, but we want to obviously display them in the available space that we have using a correct aspect ratio and basically just fill it. Okay, so next thing we need to do is we need to give them a rectangle. So skrect equals new skrect, and for the moment we're just going to say we want it to be from 0, 0 to the width and the height. Beautiful. Okay, so we'll give it that rect. Oh, got to give it a name first. I don't know. Okay. The overload that we were after here is this one here, right? Because what we want to do is we want to provide it with, we want to say it's centered, okay? And we want to have a stretch here. So we want to say bitmap stretch. And this is what's cool. I can say aspect fill, which means it's going to keep its original aspect ratio. It's just going to fill the available space. And then what do we got? Center, center. That should probably be it. Okay, let's see what happens here. What did I build? Building Android. Actually, I did build all, so it's building my Android and my iOS. Let's deploy it to my Android first of all. Come on, Visual Studio, you can do it. Come on, Visual Studio. Right. putting Go XLR to good use. Okay, cool. So, you know, that's the basic layout there. That looks about right. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to run it on iOS as well, just to make sure that it's cool. And that's not it. All right, so there it is on iOS. Cool. So the reason I did that is they've got slightly different aspect ratios. So just making sure that it was going to populate correctly. Okay, so that looks about right. So now comes the fun part. So now comes the part where we get to do some transitions. So for this, we're going to use the inbuilt animations we're just going to create some custom animations, but use the animation framework that's inside of Xamarin.Forms. All right, so first of all, you know, what we're going to do is we want to presumably do it on a swipe. So let's first of all get ourselves a swipe method out of here. So we can do this on the grid itself. And one of the nice things is we now have, we can put a gesture recognizer in here, and we can have a swipe gesture recognizer. So with a swipe gesture recognizer, we tell it which direction we care about, or all directions if we care about all directions. So we can say, let's just reproduce what they have. So it's a left swipe, and we'll have an event for when it's swiped. So all things going well, it's going to call down here. User is swiped. Okay, so this is pretty much where we want to kick off our transitions. So what we'll do is we'll create ourselves an animation, right? So we could just go ahead and create just a normal animation. I think what we want to do, let's just create a normal animation first of all. Let's get the label and let's take it off the screen, right? So we'll go, we'll get our heading. So when it goes off the screen, it changes its position and it also changes its opacity as well. So we'll say heading, let's call it heading slide out, because there's also going to be a slide in heading as well. So we're going to create ourselves an animation. Okay. With that animation, what we're going to do is we're going to say, what do we want this to do? Right now, there's a few different ways that we could do this. We could just do it as like a, you know, we could actually just, what did we call this thing? Heading 1, you know, I could kind of just go like heading 1, just translate to, and then just go and tell it where I want it to translate to over a particular time. The problem with that is we've actually got quite complex animations going on. So instead of that, I'm going to actually create an animation, and then we're going to compose them all together, because certain things are going to trigger at certain times, and we need to sort of have a bit of tight control over that. So what we'll do is we'll say, okay, I'm going to create a new animation, and the animation is going to heading 1. Okay, we're going to go and adjust its opacity. No, we're not. We're going to go and adjust its translate X, right? And we're going to give it a value, right? And we're going to sort of basically say, I want this to go from where it is. So its starting point is going to be 0, and we need to put it somewhere off the screen. Hi, James Divis. Welcome. So where we'll move it to is we'll just move it off the screen, like basically the width of the screen. right? So we'll say minus this dot width, and we can also, basically give it an easing in here as well. So we can say easing, and we'll fine tune these easings. Normally a pretty good bet is, sin in or sin out. So we only really care about it sort of just accelerating off the screen. So we'll say sin in, or sign in. That would be probably better. Okay, and we'll throw another one in here for an opacity. And so now what we'll do is we'll instead change the opacity, and we'll go from 1. Be clear about that. We'll fade out, and we're going to go to 0. Okay, cool. So you notice here, like I'm basically just giving it what I want these particular animations to do. Now, what I want to do next is I want to create an animation object and have some children inside of here. And you'll see why in a moment. But so for example, I can say, okay, let's get a parent animation. So this is a new animation. Okay. And inside of this, we're going to go and add child animations. So parent animation.add. We're going to specify the starting points. So for the moment, we'll say, animations go from 0 to 1, right? So, based on your sort of easings. So a really cool site, easings.net. That's not it. Oh, there it is. Okay. So this is a really cool site that sort of basically shows you all the easings and how they go. What I like about this as well, because sometimes it's hard to remember, you can basically click on any of these and you can have a look at that easing sort of compared to a linear function. So that's pretty cool, and you can see how it varies over time. Yeah, it's a really, really cool site because I can never remember the easings. One thing it doesn't do, so like if we go and have a look at this one here. Yeah, one thing it doesn't do is it doesn't give you the formula for it, unfortunately. So this gives you all the CSS ones. Actually, keyframes. Maybe you could work it out from there. But anyway, easings.net's pretty cool. But we'll play around with the easings. So really what I do is I want to say, okay, well, animation goes from 0 to 1 normally, but we can vary that if we want. But for our slide out, we're going to say, let's start it at 0. Let's go it to 1, for example. And then we can say, let's go and, so this is for the whole entire duration of the animation. And we'll say heading slide out. And we'll do the same thing for the fade. All right, something like that. Okay, so effectively what we can do is we can go and we can create these animations like this, and then we can go ahead and we can commit them, right? So the idea there is I've now added those in, but like what I could do is I could say, hey, I want the fading to start at 0.5 and go through to 1 if I wanted to. So in our case, we'll just stick them at 0. But the cool thing here is I can now say parent animation .commit, right? And I can say, okay, well, we assign this to an object. In our case, it's for the whole page, so we'll put this in here. We've got to give it a name, so it combines basically the object it's attached to with a name. And what you want that for is if you want to know whether it is currently animating or not. So we'll say, let's call this like the transition animation. Okay, we can say what rate. So the default rate is 16. The reason it's 16 is because that gives you, 60 frames a second. We can give it the duration of the animation, right? So what's cool now is I could say like, make this 1 second. And I could say, so basically this is going to go for 1 second. And if I changed that to 0.5, of course, that's going to take 500 milliseconds. It's going to take half a second, right? So it's kind of like proportional, but it means that if I wanted to adjust the rate of all of this, I can just do it in one place, which is pretty cool. So let's put 1,000 in there. Now what I'm going to do, right? Well, let's just go with that for the moment, shall we? Let's just make sure this is working. So we've got a swipe. We should animate this stuff off the screen. My Android's a little bit quicker to deploy to, so I think I'm going to use the Android primarily. What does the 16 mean? The 16 is the rate, right? So like every 16 milliseconds. So it's the frame rate essentially. All right, cool. All right. So I'm doing a swipe here. I'll do it on the actual device. Okay. And you can see what it's doing is it's running that animation. So that animation is getting the heading, it's sliding it out, it's adjusting the opacity. You know, we like, for example, we could say, let's make it fade out a little bit quicker. In fact, let's add something for the body as well, huh? So there we are, that fades out a little bit faster now. So we'll have to go and check the source animation and see what we get. See what makes reasonable values. But first of all, let's go and get another couple of animations. So we'll have our body slide out and our body fade out. And these are going to affect, what do I call these? Body 1, body 2, the translation of that, the opacity of that. So it's pretty much going to do the same thing, but the difference is, if we have a look at this, in fact, let's have a look at the movie version of this. All right. Let's have a look at what it actually does. So when it starts to do its translation, okay, the heading kicks off first, and then slightly after, the body of it. Okay, so all that means we pretty much got the same animations, whoops, but we just want them to start slightly differently. So we'll go and add in those two animations. Right, and we'll say, let's start sliding it out, I don't know, 0.2, for example, after, right? So it's basically saying, I just want it to be offset a little bit, and it also accelerates a little bit faster, right? So we might actually want to finish it before the other one. So we could do something like that. We could say 0.2 to 0.8. So that's going to accelerate a little bit faster out of there. I don't know if we want that, but if I wanted to slow down the slide out, how would you do that? Okay, so let me just set the fade out for this. So the fade out for that is probably, I don't know, probably similar, I suppose. Can you go past 1 to make it last longer? No. So this is, so think of it this way, right? Think of it like your animation. This is your animation, right? And for example, this one here, we're saying, I want the heading slide out to start at 0 and go to 1, right? Whereas this one here, we've said, let's start at 0.2 and go to 0.8, right? So whatever the length of the animation is, this is what it's going to take. So in order to make it go slower, all we need to do is just say, let's make the animation not take a second, and instead let's go and make it last 10 seconds. or we'll slow it down to 3 seconds so you can see. All right, let's adjust some values that feel right. The fade out. Okay, let's go with that. Clean Swift. Would you teach some architecture patterns like MVVM? It turns out I actually used to do that. We certainly could. If it's something people are interested in. One thing I do want to spend some more time doing is oh, better not see my pin. Is actually building complete apps. Like on a Friday, normally I just sort of play around with UI stuff. But I do intend to start building some full apps, and I use MVVM. All right. So what have we got now? We should now be sliding out the header. If you have a look at what we got here, we should be sliding out the header. We should be fading that out. We should be sliding out the body slightly later than when the header goes. And where fade out should be about the same. And it should take 3 seconds for this, because we said move it from here to the width of the screen. So it's basically going to move it across this way, and it's going to put it like there, right? So let's see if it takes 3 seconds. Well, see, so now it's slower as it goes across there, right? In fact, it's taken 3 seconds to do it. If I do it again. Okay. Now, interestingly, what it is doing, if you have a look, if I keep on swiping, it's basically sort of saying it's restarting the animation. So one thing that you can do is you can sort of, it depends on what you actually want to do inside of your, you know, what you're going to do in your application. But if you wanted to see if an animation's running, what we can do is we can say, we can do something like, if this animation is running, and that's why we gave it this name, right? So we can say if this animation is running, right? Depends what we want to do. In our case, you know, we're not going to make it take 3 seconds. You could make it bounce back. You know, it just depends on what you want to do, essentially. In our case, I'm just going to ignore it, right? I'm just going to say for the moment, let's just, if the animation's running and we swipe, let's just ignore it. So what that means is when we run this now, I change this back to 1,000, so it should take a second. Yeah, absolutely. So Why Bad Dragon says, if an animation timing doesn't work the way you want by just changing those values, can you run multiple parent animations with different timings at once? Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we may end up having to do that when we may have to do that when we start dealing with these images, right? I'm just doing this sort of easy bit here at the moment. That sort of fades out too fast, doesn't it? So let's just go and say,
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim, Phil Potts, and
Tulama. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Thank you for the follow. And thank you for the nice words. All right. Now I won't play with these too much right at the moment, because what we want to do is we want to we'll get all the places, get all the points in, all the elements in, and then we'll play with it. But you know, we've got that sort of coming out there now. Right now, here's the important thing, I suppose, with this particular animation we're trying to do, right? Because this looks rubbish when I swipe here. you know, it just sort of appears back here, right? Because it starts the animation. The animation says, hey, go from here and here, do the translate across there. So of course, when I restart the animation, it sets the translation back to 0 and goes to the width, you know, minus the width, right? Which is why it's jumping there. But the tricky bit with this one is that, and the reason why I like this design is because it's more complex than it actually appears, because there's actually, see if we have a look at this point here, we've actually got 2 labels on the page, and if I step forward another frame or 2, right, 2 bodies there as well, right? So the way I think we'll do this is we'll actually have 2 labels, right? Two headings, 2 bodies, right? So one of them, well, you know, we'll have the body that's come off this way and the heading that's gone off this way, and then we'll have another one, right? And then we'll basically recycle them, right? So when this scrolls this way and this one comes off the screen, we'll basically grab that one and reuse it for the one coming in. And this one will move to there, you know what I mean? So we'll just cycle them, right? So we'll create a little method which just cycles the labels and the headings, and that should give us the effect of having them slide in after each other. All right, now what that means is it means that we're going to have like a method which sort of swaps these things around. So, and we just want to basically call this. So we'll say, first of all, we need some additional elements. Let's put those in. Right, so we've got, at the moment, we've got heading 1, body 1. Let's go and put heading 2. You know what? I'm not going to call this. I'm not going to call this heading 2 and body 2 because that's going to be hard to understand. I think we'll have something like, you know, on-screen label and off-screen labels. So maybe we'll like call this one, for example. It doesn't really matter. We can call. Well, let's just call this. Let's call this. Actually, this isn't really going to matter because we're going to swap what's on screen and what's off screen. GamerWiz, is this solution available on GitHub? I'm just newing it up at the moment, so I haven't committed anything, but I just put a GitHub link in here. When it's done, so at the end of the stream today, depending on how our time goes, we'll go. You'll be able to get it from there. No worries. Okay, let's go with heading 1 and body 1 and heading 2, body 2, because actually, if you think about it, it doesn't really make sense to say on screen or off screen because they toggle between it, right? So the one that was on screen goes off screen and then becomes the off screen one, if that makes sense. So let's just go with this at the moment. Let's put some different text in here though. What is our 3? Okay, I'm gonna Thorsmork. I've been to Thorsmork. All right, such a beautiful country. All right, and I'll grab the text. So when I was looking at this before, I noticed that they used the same. The text they used below here. It's basically just the text from Wikipedia. So I'm going to copy that out for the moment. And Morse goes through, blah, blah, blah. Okay, grab this text here. Of course, we'll load this from some real places later on. So Thorsmork. It's a mountain range in Iceland, was named after the Norse god Thor. I have no idea how any of this is pronounced. All right, that's our body 2, and our heading 2 is going to be Thorsmork. Beautiful. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to cycle these. So this is where we'll create a method, right? We'll say, let's go cycle elements. And effectively what we want to do inside of here is we want to basically say if we're currently looking at heading 1, then we'll set the off screen one to be heading 2, right? And what we'll need to know what the current heading is, right? So we'll create ourselves some variables here. So like current heading, current body, and I'm going to throw these at the top. I hate variables sort of splattered in the middle. We have currently displayed stuff, and then we'll have off-screen stuff. So pretty much the same, except this will be like screen heading, screen body. We're not really doing much with the bitmaps at the moment, but let's just create it. Okay. Cool. So now let's do this. Let's say when we first start up our page, first start up our application, let's say our current heading is heading 1. And our current body is body 1. Okay, cool. Now, when we want to swap these around, we can basically say if the current heading is heading 1, then we want to, which means heading 1 is the heading 1 and body 1 are being displayed, and image 1. We'll go and we'll set the current heading to heading 2. Right, we're kind of writing a really lame-o recycler. Probably much better ways of doing it. Probably let's do this. We'll do our we also want to say our off-screen heading is now going to be heading 1. Okay, kind of lame. Not sure I'm particularly happy with that, but we'll just go with it for the moment. And if heading 2 was the current heading, then of course we swap it all around and we say, okay, current heading would be heading 1. Cool. So that should sort of cycle what we have available there. So when we do these animations, what we want to be doing is not actually doing heading 1 and body 1. We pretty much want to say the current heading go off the screen, current body go off the screen, if that makes sense.
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim Phil Potts, and oh how amazing you'll be.
Hey Codezilla, thanks for the follow. Welcome. Cool name, Codezilla. Let's get a current body here. All right. So, excuse me. So we're moving all the current stuff off the screen. Awesome. Now we want to, effectively do the same thing, right? So this is move the current stuff off the screen. Right. And then we want to move the off-screen stuff onto the screen. So we effectively want to do the same sort of thing here. But let's call this, let's do this. Let's call this on screen, because we're going to add, it's getting a little bit crazy, isn't it? Those variable names. Anyway, let's say on screen heading. Let me refactor. I don't have to. No. This isn't off screen. This is on screen. So my on screen heading, fade. This one is my on screen heading, slide out. Cool. This is my on screen body, slide out. This is my on screen heading, slide out. Fade. No, my on screen card. All right. So that's basically moving everything off the screen. Now I want to move everything onto the screen. But this is going to be the other way around, right? So this we're going to call off screen heading, slide in. And we're going to basically want to say, well, let's get the off screen heading, right? And we don't want to go from 0 to width, because of course what that would mean is on a device, it would move it that way. We actually want to move it from, like, even though the heading would have moved from here across to here, right? When we bring it on, we want to say, let's move it from here across to here, right? So we don't want to go from 0. We want to go from like this dot width. So it starts at the width of the screen. So that would be our starting point. And then we want to move it to 0. Or something like that. The opacity, when it comes in, so this would be the off-screen heading. I hate these variable names already. It starts at 0, so it's transparent off the screen, and then it slides in and becomes visible. So again, this one, we want it to go from off the screen, not minus width. We want it to go from the right-hand side, and we want it to go to 0. And then last one here, off screen body fade. We want it to go from 0 to 1. And then we want to add, so these are the outgoing child animations. And then we're going to have basically the same thing. We're going to add in the inbound child animations. So this is where I get these ridiculous variable names that I have. All right. And excuse me. And what are we going to do? We're going to say, okay, well, let's go and get this from 0 to 1. We're going to go from 0 to 0.5. 5. I think this wants to go to 1 because we only want it to be fully faded in, I think, when this one hits here. The slide in happens a little bit later. But what we want to do, we don't want it to necessarily start at the same time. Let's try this because I think they'll smash into each other basically. So let's start these a little bit later. So we'll do that and then we'll make that 0.4. And this is all just guesswork, right? So, I mean, if you had a designer, they would probably be able to tell you. Let's make that 0.4 as well. Let's see what happens. So Lachlan, it'd be cool if you could use the new carousel view to do this, but inject your animation somehow so they can manage state and virtualization. Yeah, absolutely. It's probably something worth having a look at. In fact, it's probably something worth doing a pull request on. Yeah. You know what I really think. Yeah, actually, I think you're right. If you added these animations in, right, if you could inject those into the carousel view, you could basically, you could achieve something similar to what Stephen did, where he had sort of things on different Z orders, or that parallax effect. All right, let's see where we are. Because unfortunately I don't have live code reloading. So now I've got to basically just give this a run, and I'm going to slow it down. I'm going to put this over 3 seconds so we can kind of see what's going on. Oh, you know what I haven't done? Well, this will only, oh no, this should be all right. This should be all right. One problem here is I haven't actually cycled the elements. Code, build, deploy, look. I know, it's depressing, isn't it? Yeah, so I haven't actually allocated any of these, have I? So when it tried to do this off-screen heading, bad things happened. So back up here. So I'm going to say that's heading 2. Say, yeah, this really does feel like the long way of doing this, I think. But leave that one for the moment. We don't need the images yet. We're just focusing on that text. Now, at the moment, right, we're not cycling the images. So one thing that we can do, cycling the labels, right? So if I run this, let's have a look. I just ran this and got total mess. All right. So what's happening here? First of all, let's have a look. What a mess. The incoming stuff. Yeah, am I positioning the off-screen stuff when the page loads? No, sir. No, sir. So there's another problem here as well. I'm moving the wrong elements here, right? So that wouldn't help. This is why UI stuff takes so long. I'm going to change these to have an opacity of 0. Because it doesn't really matter where they're located because the animation takes care of where they're located. But we do want them to start invisible. But I'll tell you what else we're not doing. We're not actually cycling the elements. Okay, so you see what's happening there. It's basically not got the right elements, and so therefore bad things are happening. So we need to do that idea of cycling. Okay, now we want it to cycle when it finishes the animation, right? We want it to say, okay, well, the one that went off the screen is now, or the one that came onto the screen was the off screen, now it's the on screen. You've had any gesture recognizers on them, it would matter on Android, I think, if they're just set to 0. Yeah, I've noticed that as well. So Android and iOS deal with opacities of zeros differently. In my case, the gesture is just on the entire screen, so it doesn't matter. All right. So pretty much what we want to do here is we want to put in an action when it's finished, right? So an action when it's finished takes a couple of parameters. And what we want it to do is when it's finished the animation, we want to cycle those images. Cycle the elements, sorry. Oh, I need to. What have I done here? Lambdas. My easing here. So let's not worry about it easing because we've got the easing on the child animations. So I should just be able to say null. And then this is my lambda do finish. And so the idea this would cycle the elements. Let's see what happens. And therefore it changes which one's going out, which one's coming in. And that's all right. I mean, it's way too slow and it'd be super annoying to use, but there we are. We've got those. It's like there'd be some fine tuning in terms of easings and things like that. But let's have a look at what it's actually doing. We're sort of coming through here. We're going across there. Whoop. And that is halfway through. They're starting to appear. That's pretty much what we're doing. That one appears before it goes. Cool. All right. Now, who's ready for a little bit of SkiaSharp? This is where things get scary. So we'll go with that for the moment. Now, what we are going to need is we're going to need some images, aren't we? And we're going to need to effectively kind of have like a model here for them. But anyway, let's first of all think about. You ready? let's think about this sliding on here. Okay. So what we want is we want a clip path, right? We're going to have two images. There's this image. There's this image. We're going to have a clip path. So we're basically going to be drawing this image on here, and this one we're clipping it to here. But the thing that I noticed about this is that, you know, it's not quite just a triangle that goes across, because it is a triangle until it gets to here, and then it starts creeping up. So, you know, in this case, I mean, you could have a triangle like that, but once it comes right up here, that's a square. Okay. So I think what we want is we actually want to have a clip path that looks like this. Right. And that clip path is going to animate. So before we have a break, let's just see if we can get that working. Okay, so we can do this. We can do this with animations. Okay, and what we can do is we could do something like this. Let's go and animation for Skia elements. Let's see. So if we said like we had a Skia animation here, and I'll probably get this wrong, but we'll say, let's go and create a new animation. Same idea, but with this one, we're just animating a value, right? We're not going to be, you know, doing a translation X or an opacity. In fact, all we really want to do is just have a number which animates between some values, right? Which we're then going to use to work out where we draw things in Skia. So what I mean by that is let's have a little variable here, right? Like translation or a transition value maybe, right? So this would be where we're up to in our transition. And what we want to do is in our animation here, we go and, right, so when we have our, so the same thing that we're doing here, except instead what we do is we're not changing a value. We're getting that value. We're going to assign it to a variable, which we're then going to read from our SkiaSharp, if that makes sense. So let's do this. So our callback in this case, right, is going to be something like this, right? So we're going to say, let's get that value. And with that value, let's go and assign the value to this variable. Right? And we also, so that's going to cause this number to change however we set up the animation. So as you know, we can have easings on it and things like that, which is really cool. But of course, it's not going to cause anything to redraw, right? So what we would also do is we would get our SkiaSharp. We would notify our SkiaSharp that we want it to redraw. So in that case, we would invalidate the rect. And we'll have a look at this. We'll have a look at how it goes, because I feel there may be better ways of doing it. But as a starting point, that'll probably do us. Okay. And then we're going to start and we've got to finish. So the way, it doesn't matter what start and end values you have, right? So as we saw, you could start at 0 and go to this dot width. In my case, I'm going to think about it in two ways, right? So first it scrolls across until it meets the corner of the screen or the edge of the screen. And then it goes up the screen. So I'm going to say that's 1 and that's 2. I don't know. We'll have a look. So we'll say start is there, end is 2. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Okay. Just want to see if this actually fires first. Okay, so then we've got our Skia animation, and then what we could do is we could say, okay, well, let's add our Skia animation into the parent animation. Yeah, the problem is it's not really a triangle though, is it, Lachlan? Like, at this point it's a triangle. Well, no, at this point it's not really a triangle. Like at this, I mean, the triangle for this though, like what's our triangle here? I suppose our triangle here would be like down the bottom of the screen somewhere, right? What you mean? End up at infinity off the screen. Yeah, I was just thinking of basically just giving it a point here, a point here. Yeah, but the left point disappears. Yeah, a point here and a point here. Right, and so therefore, as it moves, at this point, it's now here, 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 and here. And then when it gets to the top, it's basically a square. Let's see how we go. Let's. You know, it's always at these times that I realize I didn't pay nearly enough attention in maths. You know, like, yeah, not nearly enough. Okay, where's our SkiaSharp canvas painting? Okay, so we draw the rectangle. So let's do this first of all. Let's just draw our clipping rectangle. No, clipping path. Okay, so we're definitely, it's gonna need some maths, right? So we'll say clip path equals create clip path, maybe, right? Or calculate clip path. And what we can take into here is we need to know how big everything is. I mean, we could write it in line here, I suppose, but I think it's going to get complex. So let's pass in the info, right? So the canvas or the info. The info will give us the size. Will allow us to get the size. And we'll pass in that variable, right? So that variable that we're animating, which is transition value. Get a path, right? Yeah. Okay, so our job here then is to basically calculate the path. So what I want to do, right? So remember this transition value went from 0 to 2. So I want to know the X position or the X offset. Delta, I suppose, is the correct term. Right, so the X delta is going to tell us on our screen how far in from the side. Okay, because if we get that, then we work out where the Y is, we can basically just do the calculations there. But we could say X delta.
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim Philpotts, and oh, how amazing you'll be.
Thanks, Andy Aware, for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. We're just getting to the pointy end, as they say, of this. We're starting to do the animation of these images. Yeah. It actually literally is the pointy end in this case. Okay. So what I want to do is basically we're going between 0 and 1. Oh, sorry, 0 and 2. But for where it is on the X, when it gets to 1, it should be at the end of it should be at the side of the screen, right? So I could do this, right? I could say if my transition value is greater than 1, then my delta is going to be the other side of the screen, right? So it's going to be like info.width, right? So that's the width of the screen. Otherwise, it's going to be the width times by the transition value. Oh, that's not right. Something like that. So as soon as it gets to 1, it's stuck against the side. Okay, let's go with that. And then we could do the same thing for the Y delta, perhaps, right? We could say if the transition value is less than 1. So in other words, what we're saying is if we imagine we're going from 0 here, that's 1, that's 2. At this point here, the Y offset, right? It's always at the middle of the screen, so we're not offsetting it from the middle. So we could say it equals 0, right? Otherwise, it might be half the screen. So half the screen, right, times by the value minus 1, because remember it starts at, instead of going from 0 to 2, it's going from 1 to 2. So we would basically say get our transition value minus 1. This is never going to work, by the way. First time. All right. So let's now get our X position. So our X position is, because remember what we're doing here is we're kind of saying how far it is away from the edge. So we'll say, yay maths. Yeah, I do really suck at maths. So let's get the width minus the X delta. And this is going to be half the screen height, because it always goes, it's the pointy bit is in the middle of the screen. Height divided by 2 minus the Y delta. But actually, the problem here is that there is like 1 point. Here there is 2 points. All right, so one of them is minus from the halfway point, one is plus from that halfway point. So let's say Y pos 1, because that's what we do. Y pos 2, but this is plus the Y delta.
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim, Phil Potts, and oh, how amazing you
Ah, Warhead, thank you for the follow. And welcome. Welcome to Kim Struggling with Maths. Actually, we're not really struggling. No, we are struggling with maths, but that's not what we were trying to do. We're trying to do this. So, okay. So that should give me the points, right? It should give me the 4 points. I know it looks like 3, but one of them is at the top. It gives us those 4 points there. And then what we want to do is we want to construct a path using those 4 points. So let's have a look at our SkiaSharp docos. And basics, lines and paths here. So with our paths, what we can do is we can do like a path move to line 2, etc. So let's do that. Let's see if now we have our values, construct our path. Actually, we want to create a path, I think. Let's have a look. Yeah, we want to create a path. And then we want to, first you move. This reminds me of, did anyone ever do Turtle Graphics or Logo, as it was known back in the day? Where you put like pen down, move forward, turn right, all that sort of stuff. Kind of like that. So let's start at the top left corner. Let's say move to 0, no, info.width 0. Lachlan, you remember it? Yeah, logo, exactly. I remember drawing really elaborate space scenes in Logo. Yeah, and like really crazy elaborate things using, you know, functions and to draw stars and things like that. So much fun. We were learning programming. That's where I first learnt programming. And Why Bad Dragon, you made the same thing in college. Yeah. You know, like, I'm gonna have to do that one stream just for old time's sake. Load up, see if I can find Logo or write Logo in SkiaSharp. That'd be awesome. President, not sure you were underwhelmed. For me, it was amazing. All right, so we're going to start at the top left corner. We're going to move to the width. Sorry. We've already got our width minus there. So the X pos and our Y pos. Yeah. Apparently not. Double to float. You know, I never know how to deal with doubles and floats. Should I just do this? Do I lose precision? Does anyone know? Does anyone know how to spell float? Is that going to work for me? So we go from top corner to the first point, to the second point, and then down to the bottom corner. Then we're going to return the path. And we're going to watch this run, and we're going to giggle. Okay, so we're going to clip path. Now, because I don't trust myself, I'm going to create a paint object and just draw that path. Yeah, something like this. Because I need to know what it's doing. Why about Dragon? For the move to, wouldn't that be the top left corner, not the top right corner? Hang on, let's quickly think about this. So we've got our screen here. We're starting off at info width 0, like info width width 0y. We're going to however far we're going in and to its y position, which might be, well, let's say we're starting, it might be there. We're going, well, actually, no, let's put it there. And then we're going to xpos. Yeah, it depends if x is the so this is where I've basically made these the offsets. So it's going, where's it going? So it's going that way. Yeah. That's why I was never in charge of coordinate systems. We want to end down here. Because we don't want to draw from this corner because the whole thing goes from kind of right to left. Let's just see what we get. It's probably going to be a horrible, horrible thing. So we're going to clip path. It's not really full paint. Let's call this clip paint. Oh God. Alrighty. Did we add the animation in? Yeah, start at the top right, moving anti-clockwise. Top right. Really? Okay, let's see what happens here. Get nothing. Where's my screen here? Get nothing. Oh, do you know what hang on. Let's see if this is triggering. This isn't triggering. Because you see this comment here. To do? I didn't to do. So let's do this. Let's go and add the animation in. So with the animation, I suppose we want it to pretty much go the entire time, right? So when it starts to when it finishes, 0 to 1. That won't do donkey, exactly. It's not going to do it all. Okay, we got it. We got a value. Ooh. Did you see that? You probably didn't. Let me make it like big and fat and red. All right, here's my screen. Here we go. So do a swipe. There we go. It's very slow, but SkiaSharp is crazy fast. So I think it's just because I had a slow animation. Yeah, it's over 3 seconds. Let's do this. Let's make it. Let's see how long this actually happens. How long this actually takes. It's about 1 second. Which, oops, I hit F1. Let's change it to 1 second. All right, that'll do as a starting point, right, for our clipping path. There's a pause in between them. That's not too bad. Let's see what it looks like with an image in there, hey? All right, now, I've been going for 2.5 hours. So, oh, on the video. Hang on. Not your app. Hang on. What are you saying? There's a pause between them. Between what? Let's have a look. So you're saying comes across. And it pauses here. And then it moves to the next one. Is that what you mean? Like there. That's just because I'm swiping like a crazy man. Right? Let's see if I can get it in sync with the video. Ready? And go. Oh, I missed it. Wish it was a repeat. I don't think I can repeat with this. Okay, ready? And swipe. Yeah, that's the swipe. So on the third one, but that's the swipe. Yeah. All right. Cool. Now, what I was saying is I need a bio break. That's what I was going to say. So I'm going to keep working on this, but I'm just going to have a quick pause, if that's okay. And stand up and have a stretch. So probably about 5 minutes or so. So if you leave, you get banned. Isn't that what they say? Let me put a timer on here. Just go get some snacks. Exactly. So I'm putting on a timer for 5 minutes. Hopefully you can still hear me. I think you can still hear me. Let's see if that counts down. There we are. All right. See you in 5. All right, but I'm back. All right. I got a coffee too. All right. So we want an image, right? We want another image. And we want to put an image in here. Let's just do it really cheeky to start with. Let's just load up another image. Thanks for those that hung around. No thanks to people who left. Twitch is so fickle. Let's say our off-screen bitmap. Let's load up one of the other ones that I can't spell. Which one did we say? They wanted to be banned. Well, they're gone. There was Mork. All right, so we've got our off-screen image. We'll put this into like something that cycles a little bit later on. Okay. So we need to rotate these as well, I guess. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? So, excuse me. Let's do this. All those things. Current bitmap, off-screen bitmap. Current image. Do I have current image? What did I call them? Current bitmap. Let's use bitmap. I don't know. That's not going to work. God, what am I doing? What am I doing? So that isn't going to work for us, is it? So let's... What do we want to do here? So draw the current bitmap. Let's, for the moment, let's just do this, just to see if it works. Let's just go and get rid of our cycling code here for the moment. Just do this. Let's just see if it works. Instead of drawing a path, what we'll do is we'll use that clip path. So we'll say canvas dot clip path, and then we can give it the path, which is our clip path. And we want to make this so that the operation is the intersection. So basically anything inside the path. Then we'll draw this for the moment. Do that and see what happens. Okay, nice. Of course, it's not going to rotate these. Okay, but it's using the clipping path to render that in. Beautiful. So I feel what we need now is we now need to actually have a collection of images and actually cycle through those puppies. Okay, but that's a good start. That's a good start. All right. So let's do the cycling part of things. All right. Let's do this. Let's add ourselves a class into here with our locations or pages, maybe. Location pages. I think the original example has the image do some type of zoom and parallax as well. Might be out of scope for this project, but just thought I'd mention it. No, we're totally going to do that. That's the fun bit. Yeah, so it does this crazy parallax. So we're not just drawing the image. Well, you got this clipping path. What I think will happen is as we see at the moment we're drawing it in this rect here. But actually if we move that rect across as it's coming in, we should be able to get that parallax effect. But there's also other parallaxes that happen as well. Like just there, this background image starts to move as well. And then there's transparency here. So there's lots going on. Okay, let's just say here we got some locations. Okay. Now I think it zooms as well. It doesn't always zoom. I think it's based on the aspect ratio of the photo you're displaying. So like, for example, when this one transitions here, it just moves. But this one coming in, because it's portrait, like a portrait aspect ratio, it zooms in. How hard can it be? All right. So let's do this. Let's have ourselves a public class location. Let's create ourselves an observable collection. We'll actually put the objects in here. All right. So we'll say we're just gonna go really nasty on this one because this is not the focus. Because I would like to put this into a carousel view later on if I can. But let's just go observable collection well, this is our model object, I suppose, location model. Right, and let's just boop, 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 something like that. Just generate a class called location model, tonal. Just not worry about that for the moment. Okay, so we're gonna have a couple of properties. We're gonna have a string, which is the title. We're gonna have a string, which is the description. And we're gonna have a string, which is like the resource ID. I don't want this as a nested class. It probably doesn't really matter. Crikeys. Let's call this our pages. Set. Let's close some brackets here. Let's have a static constructor. All the best things are statics, right? And let's say our location pages equals a new observable collection of location models, and at a new location, we'll say its title equals. All right. I'm going to go in and get these 3 things. So I'm actually going to copy some things that we had in our page before. So we'll dynamically do this now. Do it properly. So we start off with Thorsmork. And what am I doing here? New observable collection location model. Oh. Pages is static. Blah, blah, blah. Statics. Model, isn't it? Okay. Description. Let's get our description for Thorsmork. Move this over a few lines. And then we're going to have an image resource. Set that. 3 of these bad boys. Okay. So our resource for Thorsmork, we know about that one. It'll look like this. Tweaks. That. That's our resource. Beautiful. Now let's create 2 more for our other places. And next one, let's have a look at the order they do it in. So if we can get it the same order, we can sort of compare it. This one. Okay. I got that text right because it's just from Wikipedia. Okay, and its image is this one here. Okay, and then we've got our other one, which is this one here. So let's Wikipedia search this one. Bada bunga. Sometimes I think it'd be just easier to just set up a proper data source. Let's have a look at what they use for the text. Something above sea level. Subglacial stratovolcano. My kids would love this because they're totes into volcanoes. And our image, this one here. Okay, cool. So now we've got a data source. Let's do something with it. So probably what we want to do is we kind of want to go through the pages, right? If you know what I mean. So we'll have a current page, I suppose. An index. int, I suppose, and we'll have a move next. Let's go through this in. Because what we're going to do is, of course, when we get to the end, we want to cycle back to the beginning. So we'll get next ID or get next index. And then we'll say our next index equals the current index plus 1. There's better ways to do this, I'm sure, if the next index is greater than the we call it location pages dot count, right, something like that, -1. So if we're basically at the end, we'll say next index equals 0, and then we'll get the next index. Beautiful. Right. Now. We probably want to have something which updates the data, I suppose. We have. So we'll have something which updates the thing off the screen. Okay, with the next index. Somehow I feel I'm writing a recycler view here. So we basically want to say, okay, well, let's update the headings. So our off-screen heading text equals location pages. Next up, title. Description, and we should also have our off-screen bitmap. And we can load.
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim Philpotts, and oh, how amazing you'll be.
Hey, Andrew Nagy, welcome. Thanks for joining. Thanks for the follow. So we should be able to load this up the same way that we did this, right? Except instead of using the type, we'll use the actual value. So we'll say, let's go and get this dot image resource. Okay. And so therefore we'll update our images there. Okay. So when we swipe, we're going to want to swap these all around. To require some definite refactoring later on, right? But we could say, okay, well, let's update the elements. Yeah, all is well, Andrew. Thank you for asking. So we'll say, let's get our next index. Right, then let's just sort of say, update our elements with that index. Okay, so that's going to update the elements that are off screen, so that they'll have the right value coming in. What else do we need to do? We need to set some initial values, I suppose. sort of stuff. Let's set. Be really cheeky about this just to get it working. And we can refactor. I feel like this code is pretty rubbish. So whenever we swipe, we're getting a next index. I think that should probably swipe. We cycle the elements. We need to increment our, we've got our next index. We need to update our current index to be our next index. So this is when the animation finishes. We need to also change what our current bitmap is. So that's going to be our off-screen bitmap, because it's going to need it when it does the animation. When we actually do the drawing, screen bitmap. See where we are. I feel a little bit lost there, but let's see what we've got. Okay. That's okay. That's okay. Something weird happened at the beginning. Yeah, it's fancy. It's not as fancy as we were hoping to get, Andrew. We're hoping to do this. That's what we want to do. That would be heaps fancier. All right, cool. Now wait on, something weird happened at the beginning. I'll restart this. I wonder if that's because we don't actually here. This is why I stick to back end. Yeah, see, I love it's kind of interesting because I love front end stuff, but it's also super frustrating because it's really finicky. So what is happening here? I'm going from is that because we're not setting our initial values? Only if other people are doing it. Yeah, fair enough. Setting a heading. I don't think we want to set our bitmaps here. We'll set our current bitmap, maybe. But that's going to be from the current index. Let's see if we can. From our current index. Dot image resource. Okay. Off-screen bitmap. Don't need to set yet. Yeah, it is absolutely Why Bad Dragon. It's really good fun to to try and get things all nice. Absolutely. But it does take a lot of work. I feel like I haven't set something here. Correct. Null reference. So we've called this without setting a value. So basically we get a object not set in our, we haven't set a bitmap. So we're going to current bitmap. Right. We cycle our elements. Yep. All good. We say a current bitmap. So until we swipe, we don't have an off-screen bitmap yet. Why about Dragon? The stream broke. I think we're okay. Let me just check the stream values here. It looks all right. Now, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. I'm going to say so initially we don't have an off-screen. So let's just say like if our off-screen bitmap is not equal to null, then we'll do this. Draw the bitmap. Oops. In fact, we could probably even do this. We could say if our transition value that we have is less than or equal to 0, then we don't need to do this at all because we're not swiping. Then we say if we've got an off-screen bitmap, then let's draw the path. Let's put it in there. See what happens. I really need to get this code reload happening to make this so much quicker. Yeah, so Why Bad Dragon says I'm not a very creative person. I'm sure you are, but I really enjoy replicating examples I find online. Yeah, same with me. Like, if you got me to say, hey, go and design this, I do a terrible job of it. But I really love what designers do and then trying to turn that into a working example. Okay. Cool, now let's see if it cycles back. Oh, booyah. All right, finally. Okay, so we got this going now. So what's next? Well, next, I suppose, we want to transition in. Let's do this. Let's transition in the image that's coming in. Or sorry, the one that's, we're going to have to add another animation inside of here just to say basically, let's just move the current image first of all, right? Because the current image kind of like scrolls off the screen, right? So we can do this. We can say, instead of just giving it the full rect here, let's do this. Let's say SK, going image rect, right? And then we say if we are greater than 1, right? So in other words, what we're saying with greater than 1 is if you see how once it gets to this point here, this background image starts to move off. So let's get that image moving. So what we could do is we could add another animation in order to give us that value. So we could say if, basically if we're, if our transition value is greater than or equal to 1, so in other words, we're at that point where the triangle hits the side, if you like, here. Outgoing image rec. We'll say outgoing image rect. There's a new SK rect. Do it. You can do it, Kim. Apparently not. All right. So we want to animate this out. So if we adjust the left-hand side, right, we can slide that out. So we can say, let's go and get, going to go from 0 minus, and we're going to want to have a value that we animate out, right? So a value that is saying, sweep it off the page, basically. So if we go to our animations, it's going to add another animation in here, right? Like our outgoing image. Let me just copy this. Right, so we'll say, well, this is like our outgoing image, and what we're going to do is we're going to give this a different variable because it goes off at a different speed. So we'll say like our outgoing image offset. And what we'll do is we'll start this, right, at 0, and then we'll go to the width. So we'll tell it to go all the way off, right? So instead of just saying from 0 to 2, we'll say like this dot width. Create this variable. And we can use that to then change this rect that we're drawing it on, right? So we can basically say, let's go and minus that, what do I call it? Going offset. That's 0. It still needs to be visible on the entire part of the screen, because if it wasn't across to the other side, if we were just moving it with this one, it wouldn't appear down here. So we'll still say info width. And what's our last one? Dot height. See if this works. Otherwise, we're just drawing it full screen. And then we're going to use that. That. Something float. Okay. I think that will give us enough. No, it won't, because we didn't add the animation that we just created, this outgoing image. We didn't add it into here. Right. And when we add this one here, realistically, we don't want it to start at the beginning, right? We want to start halfway through, because at halfway through, that's when the triangle hits the side. So we'll say, start this at 0.5. Get the name of that. Let's go and change it. We're getting there. We're getting there.
Sometimes things don't work.
Let's see what we have. There we go. So now let me slow this down. It's my animation. This file's a mess at the moment. Anyway, we can tidy it up later on. So let's say I put this over 3 seconds, right? We should be able to see it. So basically once it gets to the middle point here, it starts moving that across. So here, then it starts moving it because we have this animation, this child animation, which says, hey, I want to adjust this value from 0.5, which is halfway through, which is there, and start moving that offset. Beautiful. So now, let's animate in the other one, the incoming one. Okay. So here we're going to want to again do something like this where we have an incoming rectangle. Let's do this. Let's say if our it's kind of like we want to say if our, let's do this. We need an amount. It needs to move. So let's give it an amount. Yeah, absolutely. Why Bad Dragon. That parallax helps to make it feel like that triangle continues off screen. Yeah. And I'm sure the designer would have, thought about that. But, that's the power of a good designer, I suppose. So what we're going to do is we want to say, well, let's get our movement amount. All right. And let's, I've got a bracket here. Let's get a bracket. So our movement amount, which is 600. So we want to basically move it 600 across. 600 is just some arbitrary number. All right, doesn't matter. So let's go and a transition value, right, goes between 0 and 2. So let's divide that by 2. And then get our movement amount times that value. Let's see if that works. We're basically needs to be a float here. Just do the whole thing. Try and breaking laws of data types here. All right, so that gives us our offset. So now we can create an incoming rect, if you like. And our rect would be 0, 0 to the width plus the offset. And then info.height. And then when we draw this, we put it into there. And what I'm hoping is this aspect fill, because what we're doing is we're adjusting the width, right? So now what we're doing is because you notice that the width of these images is kind of wider than the whole page, and pans across as it does it. Let's see if this works. And so that's the idea. I'm making the rect a little bit wider and then bringing it in. And that's positioning it into place. And that one, because the aspect ratio is kind of square, it just slides across. This one will come in a little bit. And then the next image, which is a portrait image, will sort of zoom in because we're telling it to aspect fill into this rectangle. Right, let's speed it up, see what happens. Getting close. Over a second. Okay. Let's compare that to, let me grab this page here. Needs to be a bit faster. That's not a bad approximation. Some of the scaling here will have to do with the size of the images that I have. Okay, cool. Let's have a look at, let's see what it's let's see what it's doing on an iPhone. Yeah, I think you're probably right. There is we need to speed this up a little bit. Let's make it 750. And then yeah, let's add some easings in as well. But we'll get I think we'll try and get the basics right first. Doesn't feel like it's taking that change. 750. Let's do this. I still have this problem in Visual Studio where I have to rebuild the .NET Standard project. I need to reach out to David or to Alm and say, hey, are we fixing this or what? What are we doing? Are we running? Trying to get in sync with them. Okay. Now, okay, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with that. Let's have a look at some easings, perhaps. But before we do that, there's another element here as well, right? Which is super important, I think. And that is, we look at this part down here. Lachlan, you made a fun way to make Visual Studio crash yesterday. What's your fun way? Dual build? I think that, Lachlan, I think if you change the version of mono, while it's connected, it's just telling you don't do it, basically. Okay, what I was going to say is there's actually fading goes on here as well. You see when this scrolls across, actually, let me show you on the video here. I mentioned this before. So the image that's coming in is actually fading in over this part here as well. Have a look. See, like there, it's starting to fade in. So we actually have to draw the image as well outside of the clipping bounds, but with transparency. And the good news is that SkiaSharp has a really easy way of doing transparency, actually. SkiaSharp Forms Bitmap Transparency. I'll tell you another way I found to crash Visual Studio, which is to do an iPhone build and then cancel it while it's doing an iPhone build. Okay, what am I looking at here? Saw this the other day. So basically how to adjust the transparency of an image. And it's pretty cool. All you have to do is go and create a pane object, but just with an alpha value, and then a value between 0 and 1, and then draw your bitmap with that pane object, and that will adjust the transparency for you. So let's try this. It basically means we need to say, before we create our clipping path, so we want to draw the faded version of the image, right? So we want to work out an opacity, but first we actually have to create another paint object. So we'll say using an SK paint. Call this transparent paint. Because we just want to use this paint object just while we're doing this. And then we'll work out our opacity. So our opacity is going to be like, we want it to start becoming, we want it to only become, like, it only starts appearing once it gets sort of there. So we'll say our opacity equals the transition value, right? So how far through the transition we are, right? And we'll take away half there, right? And then we need to adjust the value of it as well. So we need to say, for example, 0.5, if we only want it to ever go to 50% opacity. But the problem here is that it could be negative. So let's just say a maximum. Let's make it always 0 or above. And then we'll set the color of our paint to that. So we can say our transparent paint dot color equals, and let me steal this code from here. Actually, we want to do this. We want to say transparent paint color with alpha times by our opacity. And then we draw our bitmap. Okay, but where we want to draw it is in its final destination, effectively, right? So we want to say, we're going to get our off-screen bitmap. We're going to, oops. Okay, so we're going to get our off-screen bitmap. We're going to a destination rect, right? Is going to be incoming bitmap rate. We want to put it here, right? Because it's moving as the image moves. So actually, I think we want to work this stuff out first. Okay, so we'll say this is our incoming rect. We want to use one of these nice overloads, so pretty much the same as we do down here. Very much like what we want to do here. All we really want to do is just give it a paint object. Which is down there. Let's just name these, name them, that'll be easiest. So we'll say our bitmap. It's that. Destination rect is that. What's our next parameter? Stretch value. And then we want to have our paint value, which is going to be our paint. So we're rendering this before we do the clipping, which means, assuming that transparency works, it should start doing it outside of that rectangle. Let's have a look. Probably slow this down so I can see it. Anyway. Not convinced. Oh, I should slow it down. What I'll do is I want to have a look at the opacity. Oh, you know what? I think iOS didn't take the change. That's why. Ugh, iOS, you're killing me. In fact, I'm going to move across to Android again. Because it's too annoying. And let's set our animation to go a little bit slower. Let's say 2 seconds. Hey, Nick Larson. Happy Thursday, Friday. Nick Larson, mind if I test a bot in here? Wow. Sounds scary, dude. Here come the robots. That made me ban you. How's that? How's that? New feature, I want to test out track stream events for everyone in the live coders team. Sure. I trust you, Nick. Just don't break anything. All right, cool. You know what? We're pretty close. We're pretty close. Now, it looks a bit goofy, I think, because going so slow. Nick Larson bot. What's it going to do? Bot things. Always doing the bot things. All right. What do we think about these? Let's run it up again. And let's see what we have. Compare that to what we have in our video. Let's make a few tweaks where required. I reckon that's... Hello, Nick Larson bot. All right, free cheers. I'll tell you something that will make a difference here as well. I welcome the new robot overlords. Exactly. Is actually getting rid of the status bar. Let's do that. So I saw this article the other day. It's an old article, but it's good because it tells me what I need to know about getting rid of the status bar. By that, I mean like the notification bar at the top. So for iOS, because I can never remember how to do this, we can set in our info P list, we can set status bar hidden, UI view controller based. Okay. And for Android, we can set it with some flags. So let me just, let's go and just quickly do that, because I think it'll make a big difference actually. All right, so let's have a look at the Android one first. So basically he's saying in the main activity for Android, let me just have a look at what he's saying. Set some flags. What are those flags? Those flags, here we are. Suppose we can do it here. Okay, set some window flags to say, hey, I want this to be full screen. Awesome. Let's try that out on Android, see if it works. Now, you'll always get this status bar up here because that's what Visor has. There we go. We've got rid of the status bar. So that makes it look a lot cleaner. Ah, excellent. Why Bad Dragon? Oh, that's cool. So therefore you can have a dependency service which sets it. Yeah, that's cool. That's a good link. I like it. Basically doing the same thing, right? But just through a dependency service. Let's try out the iOS side of things. So there was something put in a... Again, I'm going to open this in the XML editor. Basically go and set this value here. UI view look controller base status bar appearance. And that should be about it, I think. That should get rid of it on iOS. Let's try it out. Clean that out. Clean out our iOS version. Yeah. How's the Nick Larson bot going? I thought, for some reason, I thought that if you do the status bar hidden, that used to work, but it doesn't work anymore. Just like this one. That didn't work. I still got to set the status bar hidden. You still got to set that bit of code. Yes. But you got to do it on a view controller. So if we throw this bit of code in, let's get rid of our debug here. Oops. Put that in. Let's try this again. Right. Older version of Xamarin.Forms. That's not running. Ah, there we go. It's gone. Lovely. They feel very, very linear, don't they? Those. I think I need to adjust the easings on some of these things. All right, so let's think about this. Probably what we want is for things coming into the page, sign out. I always just play with these. I never get these right. Let's just try that. Sign out. Let's do some of these animations here. This one here, I think, needs to have, so this is the one that controls the main animation. So this one would definitely want some animation. So let's do this as, start here, signing out. That's the nice sort of catch-all, I suppose. And we'll do this one here as well. This one wants to be a little bit more aggressive. So cubic is a bit more aggressive than the sign one. Okay, I think that will make a difference. There we go. Now they sort of slow down as they reach the end. All right. What do you think, peeps? Can we call it a success? Release. I can get my pretty good. All right. Well, I think I'm just about done. So I'm probably gonna sign off. I've been on for a while. I got some real work to do, but we've had quite a few followers and some cheers. So I want to say thanks to actually, before I do that, I'm going to run it on Android. But I do want to say thanks to people who have been in the chat, people who did the follows. So Codephobia for hosting, Clinton did a bit of cheering, Beep13, Tumalo, Codezilla, Anti-Aware, Warhead, Andrew Norgie, Nick Larson for your bot running rampant. That was always good as well. So, there's an even more fun thing than this. So, Why Bad Dragon said this is going to be fun to mess with. So yeah, do feel free to do some improvements because it's pretty sloppy code. Let's just test the Android, like I said. Nick Larson's throwing another 100 bits at me. Did your bot work that time? Not sure what's up. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help you debug it. But I'm probably going to sign off. So again, thanks for all those people who followed. Yeah, just keep on throwing money at me. It's fine, Nick. You're doing great. Hey, there's another really cool thing actually before I sign off, and this is what I want to do next week. This guy Henry Price, has another kind of version of this, but a landscape version of it, and it's even cooler. So I thought, now that we've got the basics of animation going, why don't we give that one a go next week? That could be fun. I don't think it's actually going to be that hard. I think all we need to do is just like split up the image and do the same thing that we're kind of already doing. Yeah, sure. Anyway, let me check this in. We'll see if there's anyone else around to host upon. And what am I doing? I'm running still. Let's go and have a look. What have we got here? The stream. Let's go and whoop, whatever. Let's go and sync it up. just push out that, make sure that it's made it. There was, you're right, Lachlan, there was. I think it used FF image loading, right, in order to do it. And I hear, Lachlan, you've got an interesting post coming out today. That's what I hear. let me just post that link into the chat if anyone wants to play with it. So yeah, if anyone wants to improve on it, please do. This is that link that Marco Folio, yeah, basically splitting up an image. Let's have a look what he does. Nice. Smoke bombs. Yeah, cool. I'll have a look at that. All right, let me have a quick look and see if there's anyone fun streaming. Lots of people. Dr. Mikachu is somebody who's recently joined the Live Coders. If you don't mind, how about we go and raid Dr. Mikachu? Fantastic. And as always, thanks again for joining in. Remember that the XAML Dev Summit's on, so you can go and have a look at that as well on YouTube as it gets streamed live. And if you're around there, I'll see you online. Oh, hang on. Let me just see if we're still online here. Oh no, not online. Hosting somebody else. All right, anyone know a good person to raid?
Yeah, it'll be the third time you guys carry me. Yeah.
I don't see anyone online. All right, well, let's just pick somebody, hey, from here. It's always nice to do a bit of rating. Selenium tests, sure. Python. Is this awesome person doing Xamarin.Forms? No worries, White Bad Dragon. Well, take care. Let's go and raid onto here, shall we? And as always, thanks for tuning in. Oh, looks like I can't host that. Man. Not working for me. It won't allow raids. Oh well, maybe we're not raiding anyone then. Not to worry. All right, well, I'm going to sign off then. So sorry about the lack of raid there. But take care, have fun, and see you next time. Bye for now.